Hey, it's another week, another recipe, and this week we are going back to the 1930s Depression era with a tomato soup cake that absolutely blew my mind. I cannot wait to show you this cake. Come on with me. Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. My name's Courtney Morris, and I cook history's forgotten recipes out of random cookbooks I find and sometimes websites. And today we are taking it back 1930s style to a recipe that was beloved by a lot of people, but actually sounds completely terrible, almost to the level of cottage cheese and jello kind of terrible, but we will see. And I'll let you know what it is in just a minute. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you coming by. I hope you enjoy the experiment, and if you're coming back for more, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and I love talking with you guys. It's been so much fun. So today we are going to be making a tomato soup cake, which I have seen around the internet over the years, but I've never actually brought myself to either watch the videos or try it myself, because it's just kind of that like feeling in my stomach. Kind of like the same if you watched my cranberry jello recipe back in Thanksgiving time. It's that same pit of my stomach feeling of this doesn't go together. This should not happen. So anyways, the earliest tomato soup cake recipes were credited about 1920, 1930, but the actual recipe that was official by Campbell's Soup Company was about 1940. I found a recipe that said it was about 1930-ish, so I'm just gonna follow that and see how this goes. All right, let's get to it. I'm gonna half the recipe in the video. I'll put the link to the full recipe underneath, but I don't need a gigantic cake, so I'm just gonna make a little bitty one. I'm gonna use one small egg because normally I'd use a big egg and the bigger one, and I can't really half an egg that well. I could, but I'm not going to. I'm still fuzzy on how this recipe came to even be. Like, who woke up in the morning and said, I think I'm gonna put a can of soup in my dessert? But apparently that happened, and it worked, apparently, because people liked it. And I'm gonna do half cup of butter. I have heard that it was either Campbell's Soup Company trying to market a new way to buy their soup and do something with it, but I've also heard that because it was the Great Depression and tomatoes are a binding agent, which is why like tomato sauces are a great way to just pull a gravy or a sauce together, because it's got science stuff in it that makes it thick. Who knows? I don't really know. I couldn't really find anything conclusive, not even on Campbell's website. I mean, you can read their whole little blurb on it, but it doesn't say anything like, this is why we made it. I don't know. I think somebody must have just woken up after a dream and said, hey, that's a great idea. Okay, so the only other liquid I got is this, my Winco brand tomato soup, which honestly is about the same thing as Campbell's, honestly. This is wrong. This just seems wrong. It smells terrible. It smells like tomato soup, but cold and giving me SpaghettiO vibes. I'm assuming because the tomato and the binding agents in the tomato, you could omit the eggs in this, and maybe that was one of the reasons why this came to be, was eggs may have been in short supply for a lot of people. So you kind of gotta get, what? Yes, you didn't like the last thing I tried to give you. Who knows, if it's bad, maybe we'll try and give it to her again. You saw the fried spam video I did the other day. I tried to feed her some of it and see if the cat would even eat it, and no dice. All right, so you're gonna do a half teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon nutmeg. Oh, you know what I realized? This takes a teaspoon of cloves, even for a half recipe, which means that we might not taste the tomato. And then half a teaspoon of cinnamon. It's either gonna be death by tomato cake or it's gonna be death by cinnamon fumes. All right, and then since I'm halving this, it's like 1/16 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna say it's not looking appetizing, honestly. There's a different, and that smell, okay. There's a difference between a red-colored red velvet chocolate cake and a red-colored tomato concoction. It still smells like tomato, just more, I'm not even sure. It's all foamy now. Okay, I shouldn't judge. So the whole recipe calls for 1 3/4 cup of flour. I had half that, so it's half a cup of flour plus half a 3/4 cup of flour. I just weighed it in grams and my spirits are kind of sinking with this just a little bit. But I've read so many accounts when I was looking up the recipes for this that people loved this. Like, this was a most requested recipe at like church functions, and Campbell said it was their most requested recipe, but there must have been something wrong with it because it fell out of favor, because I have not heard about this until recently. I can't imagine why it fell out of favor. Maybe people got sane and decided to say, oh, soup is not a dessert. Now, because this is appearing to be a spice cake, we need a half a cup of raisins. Oh, what is it with people with raisins and nuts? And then a half cup of walnuts. I'm doing so good today. Maybe this is a sign I should actually be doing something other than this today. I did hear somebody say once that Depression era food was called that because it was just kind of depressing. All right, well that's my cake mix. That's weird. That is tomato and then spices. It kind of tastes like I dipped a tomato in cinnamon. All right, so since I halved this recipe, I'm just gonna use an 8-inch cake pan. Not to gross anybody out, but this looks like something that got barfed up. This is not a pleasant color. It looks like fry sauce with stuff in it. Okay, so we're supposed to cook this in a moderate oven, which in today's terms means about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius, so I'm not sure. Sorry on that one if you need it. Google. I think probably 30-40 minutes. We'll check back, and in the meantime, we'll make some frosting. All right, so this recipe comes with a cream cheese frosting, which I love a good cream cheese frosting. So this is either going to be icing on the cake, or it's going to be icing on the cake. We shall find out. So, am I too lazy to wash the little dish that goes on my scale? Yes. Does saran wrap work? Yes. All right, so I need 3 ounces of cream cheese. I had a full block, I could just cut it, but I am using what's in my fridge because I am frugal and not gonna go out and buy a brand new one just for a recipe, even though this is making a disaster. You know, I always knew I was a messy cook before I started making cooking videos, and now that I'm making cooking videos, it's just hammered in the point. There we go, and just stand by. I am back, and everything's dirty in my kitchen apparently, so we're gonna do a teaspoon of vanilla in 1/4 teaspoon increments, because that's how much I don't want to do dishes. Was that 3 or 4? Oops. Can't really go wrong with a little too much. All right, and then a cup of powdered sugar. Okay, well, I'm gonna put this to the side, I'm gonna clean up, and we've got about 20 some odd minutes before that's done, so I'm gonna go do something that I probably should get done in the meantime, and I will be back in, well, whenever that finishes. All right, so it turned out looking nice. It's a nice looking cake. To be honest, when it first came out of the oven, it smelled like tomatoes and cinnamon. There's a hint of like a gingerbready smell, but I know that's because there's cloves and stuff in it. So now that it's cooled off, I'm gonna get a spatula and put it on here. There we go. If you don't have a pancake flipper like this one, get one. They're really nice. You know that old saying, presentation, 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 and things tend to just taste better when they look better? We're gonna make this look as amazing as I possibly can, and then maybe it'll be really good. Probably going a little overboard on the decorating of a 1930s depression cake, but you know what? If it mentally gets me to eat this, fine. And for the sake of it being a tomato cake, we may as well just make it look good. And then wash these tomatoes off afterwards. I have such great ideas. All right, well, I think I get some points for creativity, but you know, this is one of my more finer creations. Please hire me to cater your events. All right, let's see how this goes. Honestly, it's a very soft cake. That's definitely a spice cake look for sure. All right, let's give this a shot. Get everything in there. What the heck? That's not what I actually wanted to say. But for G-rated purposes, what the heck? Why does that taste good? This should not taste good. This is kind of blowing my mind right now. Like in my head, I'm grossed out, but this part of me really likes this. Okay, I'm gonna try a piece without the frosting. How does this work? It is moist, it's soft, it's fluffy, but dense at the same time like a spice cake should be. And the raisins really complement that. Normally I don't really like fruit in breads and cakes, but well, looks like I'm gonna have to eat my words and this cake. Who knew eating your words could be so delicious? If you can get over the SpaghettiO smell and the barf-like texture and look of the pre-baking, I have no words. This is stumping me. I'm impressed with this. So whoever decided to wake up one day and say, I'm gonna put tomato soup in a cake, I'll give you a pass. My bad. But is this something that I think I would ever make again? I don't know. I still think I have a mental block that there is tomato soup in this and it's bothering me. If anybody knows, would you tell me why this fell out of favor? Like, why is this not really a thing anymore? I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering to the soup. I don't know what to do with this aside from eat it because it's delicious. I encourage you to try this. I really do. I want to see what you think. And if you do, please let me know. I stand corrected. If you made it this far, thank you so much for joining me on this wild experiment. This is like blowing my mind still that I actually like this. I really was setting myself up for not liking this, and wow. Anyways, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this, if you haven't already. If you liked it, please hit the little like button and hit the little bell notification to let you know when I upload, which is every Monday with a new historical recipe. And most of them tend to actually be pretty good and surprising, really surprising. If you need something else to watch after this, I'd recommend this video right here. This is my Great Aunt Ella's spice cake that is so good, and it's a family recipe that I got to try. Thank you to my mom for letting me rifle through her stuff. Go check it out, and I will see you next Monday. Bye!